So, the woke mob, infected as it is by the woke mind virus, is coming for our art. Literature, music, video games, film and TV, none of it is safe from this ridiculous woke trend. I recently received a very important, very rational, very nuanced comment on one of my videos, which reads, "Love and respect your channel, but personally completely over any of this woke trend. I can think for myself and don't feel the need to apologize for things I neither understand or care about. Being a decent human being and treating others as I expect to be treated is enough for me. ML Wang has an agenda I don't need." ML Wang, in case you don't know, is the author of Blood Over Bright Haven, a woke book. And where did this woke trend come from exactly? We don't need it. We don't need this mind virus infecting our art. Margaret Atwood has never had the woke mind virus. James Baldwin didn't have it. The X-Men comics weren't born out of the civil rights movement. Up until this woke trend infected our art, literature was never about anything. It never reflected issues within our society. As this commenter rightly points out, there are things that we don't understand or care about, and we shouldn't apologize for that. Okay, I'm gonna stop because I could do this for hours. Obviously, all of this is nonsense. And while I could stand here talking about the wokeness that has infected art since art was a thing, and I could list off the thousands upon thousands of writers and artists whose art is about social politics, I would simply be one of so many who've already done this. Instead, I want to take a different approach here, and I was inspired to do so while watching the latest video from one of my favorite YouTubers, Sean. Sean's latest video, Stellar Blade: The Fake Outrage, is primarily about the kinds of people that we typically call outrage tourists. People who get attention for getting angry over wokeness. By the existence in art and media of people who are not cishet white men. But at the very end of this 2-hour-long video, as the credits were rolling, Sean said this: "Each piece of media being examined with fickle and fleeting attention, scanned at the surface level, solely for the purpose of sorting it into one of two categories, the sole determinant of worth, woke or unwoke." What a shallow and frustrating way of engaging with art, using up your limited time on the earth to experience it. And I think this is such a valuable approach to this woke argument. We could spend all day, as I'm often tempted to, talking about how wokeness has always existed in our art, but it feels like all I'm doing is engaging in the argument, and then we go back and forth. These outrage tourists will inevitably engage in whataboutism, and we get nowhere. But pointing out that this is a shallow and fickle approach to art criticism, to art analysis, to simply reading, watching, playing art, I feel like it's a little bit more valuable to do this. To point out that art cannot be categorized into woke or unwoke, and to do so makes art so boring, pointless, arbitrary, uninteresting. I talk about this a lot on my channel, but art, literature, music, poetry, whatever it is, art is a creative outlet, but it's also a conversation. Art in any form is created by a person or a group of people. Art is a community project. Even if you create a piece of art by yourself, there will often be other people involved in the process, and that makes it a conversation. And what makes it even more of a conversation is when the art is in some way enjoyed by someone else, when it hits their eyes or their ears. You read somebody's poetry or you hear them speak it aloud. You go to a concert or read a novel in the privacy of your own armchair. It doesn't matter how you do it or what form of art it is, it remains a conversation between the creator and the audience. What is the artist saying? And what is the audience hearing or reading? And when people make good art, the conversation is complicated, it's nuanced, and it goes on maybe forever. This is why people get degrees and PhDs in one particular art form or piece of art. I have a friend who has a PhD in Kurt Vonnegut. I have another who has a PhD in Milton's Paradise Lost. Just that one work of art. That is a very, very long, years-long conversation, not just between Milton and my friend, but also all the other people who've created art around it, inspired by it, as well as the academics who have criticized it and analyzed it and written their own books about it. It's an enormous conversation. And that's one of the many reasons why art is important, because when someone creates art, and you interact with that art in any way, shape, or form, you are having a conversation through it with the person who created it. You're allowing their work to affect you, and you're allowing yourself permission to digest it, to connect with it, to get lost in it, to think about it, to talk about it with other people, to build a community with other people who love that same work of art. That's what a fan base is. It's just a bunch of people having a conversation about one specific art created by another group of people. It's all one big conversation centered around a piece of art. And these conversations are dynamic and diverse, and they go on forever. They are endless in terms of how much space and time they take up. And to categorize all of that into woke or unwoke, unsafe for the angry people to go near and safe for them to go near, because it doesn't involve anybody who is queer, who is not white, who is not a man, who is not speaking English, who is not Christian, etc., etc., etc. It's a very shallow way of analyzing fiction. It is effortless as well. It requires no skill, no talent, no energy, no time, and also no community, no communication with other people. Anyone can look at a piece of art and go, well, there's a black guy in there, so that's woke, that's not for me. They've not engaged in a conversation. They have not become part of a community. They've not engaged with the art in any meaningful way. And I think that when we approach things this way, realizing that categorizing woke and unwoke is a pointless waste of time, it means that we get to just throw the argument away and be done with it. I really think that this statement that Sean makes at the very end of a very interesting video really dismantles and diminishes this argument about wokeness simply, easily, and with real power and consideration, despite how simple it is. Arguing about what is woke and what is not woke is so shallow and so fickle, as Sean said, that it renders it all so pointless, so meaningless. It diminishes art. It means that art might as well not exist at all if all we do is categorize it into woke or unwoke. Every single piece of art you ever engage with is more complicated than that. Every time you see yourself in a work of fiction, you can ask yourself why that is, because quite often it takes us by surprise. Art is such a complex thing. It is an endless and nuanced conversation. And so anytime someone wants to throw out a piece of art because it's woke, they are throwing away art entirely, and there's no point in engaging with them in this line of conversation, because it's not a conversation. Art is, and it is an endless one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this, you can support me by following this link. I can't tell you how much I'd appreciate it, and as always, subscribe for books.